بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I ask Allah to raise the rank, the status, the honor of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his companions and his family, and all of those who follow them in excellence into the day of judgment. And I ask Allah to grant us this sincere intention. We welcome everyone to another round of the Black Imams Roundtable, another session. We are honored to be here and share this platform with you to share our thoughts and ideas on various topics that affect our community. And tonight's discussion, inshallah ta'ala, is going to be about the role of politics in our community. And we're in a little under a month out from the presidential election, and it is an opportunity to have your voices heard on the national stage and determine who will be the next president of the United States, as well as out from the presidential election, as well as local elections, and many things are going on around the country. So we wanted to weigh in on this issue and have the perspective of our imams in regards to the role of politics in our community, in our Muslim community as a whole, and also in the Black community. So inshallah, we'll start the dialogue with our beloved Imam Faheem Lee. Jazakumullahu khaira.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me good? Okay. Bismillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. We want to thank everyone tuning in to our broadcast tonight. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give it some tawfiq, inshallah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability for a beneficial message. Tonight's topic, as many of you can see, is about the role of politics in Islam, and what should our roles be as, especially as leaders, and what we should be summoning our people to do in our communities, and what should be our approach to politics. Yeah, I got quite a few views, and some of them might not be popular, but this is the Black Imams Roundtable, so we give it a go how we go, and it is what it is. I think the first thing we need to understand is what has become of American politics. So we concentrate on American politics, and how does a community really have any kind of impact with American politics. Politics is very important, especially for us living as minorities in America. And Imam Amin mentioned about the presidential election coming up. And one of the things that we have to realize, though, in politics and being honest, being truthful, is that we haven't really seen a democracy in this country for the last few decades. If you really study politics, when the Federal Reserve came into exists in 1913 during the presidency of Woodrow Wilson. That was like the last time that we seen, before the presidents prior to that, where we seen any real democracy. And the only real chance that we've seen in recent times is when JFK was the president, and you see what happened. He got assassinated, so we have to realize the importance of politics with respect to the presidential election. I'm of the view that it's really, it's rigged. I mean, it's rigged. And the other thing we got to realize is that, unfortunately, we are still trapped in between choosing two parties, the two-party system, choosing between a Democratic, Democratic candidate and a Republican candidate, and we're still under the view somehow that, especially with this election, is that if we don't vote for Trump, then Biden is the most suitable option. When in reality they're two sides of the same coin, and so we really have to get out of thinking that getting Trump out of office, because that's been the narrative lately. We just got to get Trump out of office, but getting Biden in office won't really fare any much better. If we're gonna be real. So the presidential election, I'm a little iffy about it. But I think as Muslims, where we live at, where we concentrate at, and when we have good communities, we need to really pay attention to local politics, where they have a bigger impact on us. And pay attention who's being on our school boards and who's on the city council, and in local politics, we actually have a better voice. Like right here in Camden, we are actually promoting some people that's on the school board district, to really, take back our public schools. There's been an influx of charter schools in Camden, and what's the other schools they call them? State sponsored schools. So, they're actually taking funding from the public schools and putting them into these schools. And so many people in the city are thinking that, because these schools are, newly constructed and things like that, a new building, that they're getting a better bargain. But in actuality, it's under control of the state. They don't have the same kind of regulations in these charter schools, and they call them Renaissance schools and mastery schools. They don't have the same kind of requirements that that public schools have. And kids are getting a less quality education. They've been pushed to pass these state tests. And a lot of our children are leaving out of these schools, without any real skills. I mean, today's kids, subhanAllah, they don't even know how to write penmanship. A lot of them, what I mean. They're not really learning the stuff, how to read, how to articulate math, science. I mean, not in the real practical sense, and Allah knows best. But I mean, as far as politics, as locally, we really need to pay attention and get involved. And the Muslims should really be at the forefront of, these political things, and where they're consulting us. They're looking to the Muslims and see, well, what do you see? Because they don't. These people don't know how to navigate, because they're not working on really sound principles. Politics is a dirty game, and they asking us to, approach it with a clean vote, and it really don't work like that. Now, local politics, you can have more of an influence, but the main thing now is this presidential election, and we we hard pressed to really see something. But local politics, we should definitely be involved in, and it's important. I remember one year, it was in England, in London. I forget the guy's name. He ran for mayor and for London, and he was openly, against Muslims. That he hated Muslims, and he made it known. And he ended up being the mayor of London for a while, but he won by a very slim margin. So had more Muslims voted, what I mean, it probably would have had an impact, and getting them out. But there were some Muslims there who were, saying we don't deal with politics, we don't get into them. But just think of how Muslims had, put together a concentrated effort and, picking out the candidate that they want that best suit their interests. you know, what it could have done, you know. And so those are some of the things we need to do locally, you know, making sure that the candidates that we are electing or we're promoting, that they have our best interests at heart, you know. And that's what we got to do, local politics. Again, I'm iffy about the presidential. I mean, I feel like it's already in that Trump is going to be elected again, you know. And I mean, you can call it conspiracy or whatever, but I just think that the presidential elections are already rigged, you know. Allah knows best. But still vote, you know. Still, you know, your vote counts, inshallah. Still vote, and you know, see how it happens, you know. But the local politics, pay attention to them in your area. Just, you know, I mean, as black people and you know, in general, and Muslims in particular, we still have this kind of tendency to like just vote down one column. I would say with politics, make sure that we are looking at what these politicians are talking about, and don't just vote down the line. Just don't vote everybody because they Democrat. You know, listen to what their policies are. What are they proposing to do about things in your city, in your locale, in your region, and you know, vote for the one who is giving you the best information. You know, inshallah. So that's my take. I mean, I got some more on it, but you know, I was charged with holding this down to the other imams came. Alhamdulillah, Imam Naeem showed up as we knew he would. So he has relieved me of my duty. Alhamdulillah. So inshallah, so I'm done. I talk about 10 minutes. So I leave it to Imam. I mean Imam Naeem next, inshallah.
What did he exactly ask again? What are we supposed to talk about?
Oh, the role of politics in Islam, and you know, what should our role be as far as politics, the presidential election, local politics, you know, politics with black people, and or politics with us as Muslims.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, wa afdalu salatu wa atamu taslim. على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن السادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. I really can sum up my my opinions on the issue with really one sentence. I agree, and my position is the same thing, exactly what you said. I mean, really, literally. But alhamdulillah, for me, every time the presidential election season comes around, to me, it's amazing. To me, it shows me so much about how, number one, how limited our memory is. Like we have very short attention spans, and it just seems like people abandon like common sense. So what I mean by that, when the presidential elections come around, you see, you know, people, you know, it's almost like a religion. People like, you know, emotively, you know, advocate that, you know, you vote for this party or you vote for that party, or, you know, you're all kinds of, you know, foul things if you choose not to vote in the presidential elections. And it seems like everybody who takes such hard lines, regardless of which position or which party they advocate, it just seems like they forget everything that we've learned in elementary school and that we've seen play out in our lifetimes. We don't have to go back to the 50s and 60s to see what what we learned in elementary school play out, you know, in our adult lives. For example, we learned in elementary school that the popular vote does not elect the president. We learned that, you know, it's the electoral college that elects the president. And so, yet and still, every 4 years, people come out, and I'm sure all of you are seeing it as well. I'm getting text messages on my phone. I can't watch YouTube without a commercial coming on telling me to vote. I mean, it's just everywhere, right? Vote, vote, vote. So we've seen 4 years ago when Trump and was running for office against Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, meaning people like me and you that went out and voted, Hillary won the election. Who's the president? Not Hillary. Why? Because Trump won the electoral vote, the electoral college. Same thing we learn in high school, right? Anytime you bring these, or elementary school, anytime you bring these up, the hardcore advocates of voting, they get real quiet. They won't explain that, because if we keep that in the forefront, that okay, the popular vote does not choose who the president is, right? It's the electoral vote, right? So if we keep that in the forefront of the conversation, then naturally the next question will be, okay, if our vote don't really count, well, how do we affect or try to vote for the electorate, right? But that's a conversation that we never have. We don't ever have that type of political education. And so that's one layer. That's one layer of the problem that I have. People never talk about. And people that are educated politically and choose not to talk about this, I see them as traitors, and I see them as people who, or for whatever reason, are choosing to keep us ignorant and choosing to have us, involve ourselves in activities that are not designed to produce anything. And so that's one layer. Another layer that I have a problem with, and again, these comments that I've making so far are only with regards to the presidential elections. So another level on top of that is every other group of people in this country, when they support a candidate, there's always some type of meeting or some type of quid pro quo that's established. If we support you and you get in office, this is what you're going to do for us, right? Black people, we don't do that. We don't get that. That conversation is never had. So people talk to black people. People talk to black people as if, you don't need anything. You don't need any tangibles. Let me wear some Converse. Let me put a black face in front of you, or let me, show that I eat hot sauce with my food, or let me come to the rally and dance with you, on some black platform, and that's all you need. I don't have to give you anything tangible. I don't have to give you anything tangible, right? And we still go for this. And I usually don't get into these, political conversations because, like I said, every election season, people just completely abandon their intellects, and it's just straight raw emotion, right? And so you can't have an intellectual dialogue with people like that. And so, like I said, I don't advocate and care anything for the presidential election because, frankly, right now, I don't see us doing any worse under Trump than we was under Obama. I think it's the same thing, So that's just two levels or two layers of the problem that that I have with presidential electoral politics, and these are issues that most people don't talk about. I can even remember again, and this is not too long ago. I can remember when Bush was running against Al Gore, and it really came down. It was a close race in the popular vote, and it came down to Florida. Then I forgot some wishy-washy business came down with Florida because I think Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida at the time. And so the votes wasn't counted right or something. It was real fishy. Then it was even real fishy with the electoral vote. They couldn't decide who the president was. I remember it went way into the new year and we didn't know who the president was going to be. And the Supreme Court elected President Bush for the term, Junior. And so I remember all of these things, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one that remember these things. So when our leaders and when these people that's real dogmatic about voting, they never bring these things up and they never educate our people. And so I really don't have, Let me just bite my tongue. But anyway, but as far as local politics, when our votes actually count, and we can influence, who's on city council and who's going to be the mayor and who's going to be in charge of zoning, who's going to be sitting on the local courts, the traffic courts, and all of these things. I believe that, we should involve ourselves with that as a collective. And this goes back to something we mentioned on each and every one of our episodes on this roundtable, is that, we always talk about community and Jamaat and moving around the community and all of that. And so this is one example of how if we act according to what we learn from Islam about living in a communal fashion, that we can actually have some impact on a local level at least. So alhamdulillah.
Barakallahu bikum, mashallah. I wanted to, in terms of just add some thoughts to what y'all was talking about in terms of the local and politics and national politics, in terms of the president. I look at this whole thing in several layers to it. Number one, some things that I think we need to accept as Muslims, as Black people, and because we have both things. We're Muslim and we're Black. So we have two things that we're working with that is kind of opposed to traditional American values, because as a Black man, you're a second-class citizen traditionally in American culture. And as a Muslim, you don't count because you're not Christian. So you have both of those dynamics working. But as a Muslim and as a Black man, you realize that we do have a voice. How strong that voice is relative to where you're at. But it can make a difference if it's used. So that is an encouraging thing, I think, for us to start engaging. When we say, listen, I have a reason why I need to engage. Because if I don't engage, the default position is I won't count. And if I don't count, then that opens up the door for oppression, right? So if you don't challenge the system and the means that are available to you to challenge that system, and work for change, then you're definitely going to be on the plate. You can count on it. You're on the plate by default anyway. So I think a lot of times we forget that point, that you're on the plate. As a Black man or Black woman in America, you're on the plate. You are the meal. As a Muslim, you're just another dish on the plate. Now, your job is to make sure you don't get eaten. You know what I'm saying? Or eaten. That's what you're trying to save yourself from initially. Now, how are you going to do that? There are means to do that. You can do one way, you can fight. That works, right? Imam Luqman, you got to go on mute for a minute, but we got you on.
Okay, I got it.
And believe me, that has changed situations. People fought to change oppression, the system of oppression or injustice. You can vote and lobby your way in the American system, and it can work at some levels. So what I say is figure out for us as a people, as Black people, as Muslim, what we want. What are we trying to achieve? And I think when Imam Naeem, when you mentioned about there's always a discussion and there's some lobbying going on because other people know what they want. As Blacks and as Muslims, we haven't defined exactly what we want, right? And not only that, and then mobilize around that idea. This is what we want, and this is our platform, why we're supporting you. Because that is what every other group of people do. They say, this is our list of priorities. No one expects to get everything they want. That's just known. It doesn't work that way. But they have a list of things that they want, and they lobby for that. What we have failed to do as a group is have a firm agenda that we all stand by, or the majority of us stand by, and then mobilize our resources around that idea, right? So there's two steps to that. There's the step of number one, formulating some demands, right? What you want. Okay, you're going to elect us for what? Because what is the default? Anyone who's elected in America is to design, its default position is to serve and further white supremacy. That's reality. That's the default America that we know. And I don't know, sometimes we act like that's not the way it is. That's the world we live in. That's the America we all know, whether we turn a blind eye to it or not. The America we know is built on white supremacy. And it in our Constitution didn't include us. So if you ever think someone that's going into politics or to any type of government, if you don't give them other marching orders, the marching orders is white supremacy, the furtherance of white supremacy, which means oppression of anything that's other than white. And that's worldwide oppression, not just in America, right? So when we look at that, that's a reality. Now, the way you change that is saying, listen, no, we count, and this is what we want. So I think one of the things, before we even fully engage in the political system, we have to have a set of values that we stand for, right? We have to have some principles. Once you do that, now you start advocating for those principles. On the local level, I've seen in our city, it works, right? I've seen nobodies become powerful through politics and influential from the local level all the way up to the state level. But they mobilize around ideas. And me and my brother, we talk about politics a lot because in my city, Black folks are very powerful. I don't know what they do with all that power, but they're powerful. Like, we run the city. But I don't think we run it in a way that suits us because we don't really have a collective agenda. So even though we're in charge, but I don't think we maximize the ability we have. But me and my brother, we always talk about this, right? And one of the things that we realize that you can get a lot done on the local level that affects your everyday living. So like Imam Faheem talked about the school board, right? But even in job creation, because it's a problem, job creation, small businesses. On the local level, you can lobby with local politicians because they have more influence in governing, right? It's not so much red tape. Even though there's red tape, it's less. So you basically have, depending on where you're from, you have your mayor, you have your council, or some form like that. And basically, they're the ones making all of the decisions. So at best, you might got 10, 15 people to work with, right? And if you control the majority of those positions, then you have an ability to make some kind of change. So one of the things that I would say for us is, as Black Muslims, we got to have our own agenda. And our agenda can't be the quote-unquote Muslim agenda. Now, this is going to be very unpopular, Imam Naeem, but, popular is not popular, as I mentioned. Because...
Get him, man. Get him.
No, seriously. Now, when you say Muslims, the Muslims, they're not talking about us. We're not even in the discussion. When they say in America, we're dealing with the Muslims, they're talking about others. They're not talking about black people, right? When they talk about blacks, they're talking about us, Muslim and non-Muslim. But when they talk about Muslims, we're not the ones they're mentioning. Nor is the agenda that they're serving related to us. It never trickles down to the black community. It is towards other communities. Immigrant community, the white American community, not the Spanish and not the black. That's not where that goes. So that means we have to develop our own platform that we stand upon. A problem with that, I could go on and on with this stuff, but I'm like, a problem with that is we gotta wake up and stop being scared to speak the truth, right? That's one problem. Like, don't say that that's offensive, but it ain't offensive for you to be racist and don't include us on the agenda. That's not racist. That's not un-Islamic. But it's un-Islamic for us to mention that, wait a minute, I'll give you an example. We had a Muslim meeting with the state attorney, right? So he's the head law enforcement officer in New Jersey. So as the Muslims meet, I happen to go, I don't know why I end up in that meeting. There was only 2 black people there. The rest was somebody else. And the whole agenda had nothing to do with their masajid in the inner cities. So it's like maybe 20 people sitting at that table, and they're like, Imam, Amin, just, I said, no, we're going to address this. Because you can't speak for the Muslims if you're only speaking for yourself. Say I'm speaking for us. Don't say I'm speaking for the Muslims, because what you're saying is you're not including all the Muslims as if black people ain't Muslim. And last time I checked, we were Muslim in this country and promoting Islam before you came. So the idea of saying that, you're going to give something for the Muslims, but you're not including all the Muslims, then this doesn't work. So I'm saying you got to have an agenda that or a platform that benefits you as Muslims, as black people in this country. Once you do that, now you should start figuring out who's going to further your agenda in their position, right? So I'm going to say, okay, you're going to get the Muslim vote. And we're gonna say the Muslim vote here, the black Muslim vote, is going to be a certain amount of people. And we're gonna work in this way, and we're gonna reach our people. There is something that Imam Zaid said last night that really struck me, that we forgot. When we became Muslim, or when we got on the Sunnah, or on the Haqq, or on the Minhaj, or whatever you want to call it, we forgot that we were black. A lot of us. We forgot we were black. We forgot our black struggle. And we forgot our connection to our people. And our predecessors who identify themselves as Muslim, as black, they never forgot their blackness. And they used their blackness also as an additional support to their Islam, to their being Muslim. So that means they combine both, and only we can do that. So as black Muslims, we can touch the Muslim community, which is what they consider the others, right? And we're still connected to the black community. If you pull all that together, you have a political force. You have a political force. Now, but the thing, you got 2 challenges. You got to make the Muslims who are not black recognize you as black. And that's why you got to work with your people to empower yourself to become a force to be reckoned with on the political field, right? You got to have something that says, listen, we're supported. Because if you come and it's just 3 or 4 of you or you don't have no stance, nobody's going to listen to you. But if you got your people with you and you're leading your people in their dialogue and in their concerns, and because they are your concerns, whatever affects black people affects black Muslims. If you have that as your platform and all those concerns are the same, now you've been able to make alliances with others to support your cause. So I think if we did that on the local level, it's easy. We'll get a lot done. But even on the national level, I remember just last month, I was sitting between two people that's running for the Senate, right? Amy Kennedy was on my left, and the Van Drew guy, he's a Republican now. He was a Democrat, and he got in the Senate and changed to a Republican. But we were right at the table with them. And I was talking to Amy Kennedy, and I was explaining to her the dynamics between the Muslim community, because she was sitting next to me, so she was concerned, and we talking. But she probably gonna win. And they've been sending out messages to me like regularly, right? Because they was watching, these people are savvy. They're watching all the Muslim communities, all the imams there together, and they're sitting like, who's the strong one around here, right? Who the one that they're listening to? And they like, okay, well, if he's effective, then we need to work with him, and we need to talk with him, and we can get some. So they got an agenda. Okay, now here's our agenda. Here's what we want. Here's what we're looking for. And if you can do that, I think politics would be successful. And look at it this way, because someone say, well, politics is haram. We know if you don't engage in politics, oppression is going to increase, for sure. So oppression is a munkar, dhulm, no doubt about it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran about this ummah, the ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. You are the best nation, best nation brought forth from all of the human race. You enjoying what is right and you forbid what is wrong. Now, the Prophet ﷺ told us, whoever sees a munkar, let him change it by his hand. If he cannot, then by his tongue. And if he cannot, hate in his heart. And now, the munkar cannot always be changed at one time. Sometimes you only can change part of the munkar. No matter what level you can do, you're obligated religiously to change that munkar. So if we can't change all of a thing, we don't leave off trying to change some of that thing. So if that's a means for us to change some of the munkar that exists in our society, we're obligated to do it. I mean, from an Islamic standpoint, we're obligated to try to change a munkar in any way we can that is lawful. So if just talking and negotiating and lobbying and do those things, then we have that obligation. Because if not, the munkar is going to exist and it's going to increase, and you watch the munkar. So tell me how Islamically that you know for sure that a munkar will increase if I don't at least speak, right? If I don't at least speak and your voice is through your vote, you can change some of the munkar. And it's obvious, and there's many examples where munkar has been changed through voting, through protesting, through all of those things. If that wasn't the case, we'd still be in chains and getting whipped and so much. But that's not the case openly right now. It still exists. And listen now, if we look at all this police brutality, whenever you see people engaging in the system, you start seeing laws change, you start seeing police officers being, all that is a part of it, not just voting. Every part of the system that they give you a chance to engage in, you should engage in with the intention of removing munkar. And Allah knows best. Go ahead, Imam Luqman. You gotta take off your mic, your mute.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. How y'all doing, man? This is it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we good.
Can you hear me? Okay. This is an important topic. You know, I've been talking about it, writing about this for several years, and alhamdulillah, we sort of caught up with it. There are 5 things you want to look at, okay? Now, number 1, we've been needing a political arm in the Black Muslim community for years. For years, we needed a political arm. Not everybody in politics, but a political arm, okay? Now, I've been involved in about 20 different issue and political campaigns, from mayoral, gubernatorial, state legislative, state Senate and state Senate campaigns, just as an organizer and a strategist, not working on Islam, just politics for hire. So there's 5 things you want to look at, okay? Because you have to compartmentalize our approach to politics, because it's not a 2-step. It's like a process, and we're just entering into it. So you really kind of got to know what you're doing, because when you start dabbling in politics on any level, except the very basic local level that you talked about, the enjoining good and forbidding evil, then it gets complicated. At the local level, it's not that complicated. You want to get a new dog park. You want to stop liquor licenses in certain neighborhoods. You want to cut down crime in certain neighborhoods. You want to get funding for the school district in the inner city. That's politics too. That's local. That's easy. That's less controversy. Anybody can get involved in that, and many Muslims are involved in that kind of stuff. It's simple. It's a simple issue, local issues, and that's the first approach, I think, for Muslims who want to become politically involved, and many of them are, is to start on a local level, and it's not going to be about Islamic issues too many times. It's going to be about people issues. You just happen to be Muslim. If you're talking about crime, and you're talking about drugs in the neighborhood, it's not because I'm Muslim. Yeah, it's true, but because you're Muslim, but because you don't want to have drug sales in the neighborhood. You know, you want to cut down on crime. You want to increase school funding. You want to, if you're addressing like LGBTQ, XYZ teachings in a local school, in local kindergarten, you can address that stuff. School board, school elections. So it's simple. So you got that part, which is, you don't need a whole bunch of political mathematics to be involved in that. That's just natural. That's just a natural consequence of being a citizen living in America. So you got that. Then you got Islamic politics, which is what you really have to start concentrating on. Islamic politics, you got different types of Islamic politics and political Islam. Let's look at Islamic politics that has to do with Black American Muslims, okay? So you have very strong, powerful, high-funded Islamic political organizations or civic organizations that have a political wing, like Impact, right? Like CARE, like ICNA, like MAS, like ISNA. They all have distinctly political wings that work in the interest of their constituents, which in all these cases that I mentioned are immigrant Muslims, except in the case of CARE, they do advocacy, but their basic constituent are Muslim immigrants. Even more specifically, Palestinian, you know, but not exclusively. You have that. Now, in that context, you have the Black American Muslim community, which is totally left out of that. So what's the consequence of that? The consequence for that, and I think Imam Amin touched on a little bit, is that these groups, Impact, specifically CARE, specifically ISNA, specifically ICNA, they all purport to represent the aspirations, the emotions, the political views of all Muslims in America, but they do not work in consultation with Black American Muslims. As far as a lot of these organizations are concerned, I'm not talking about the individuals, but as far as these organizations are concerned, like most Islamic organizations, national Islamic organizations, the expectation is that Black American Muslims, as as a demographic, they are headed towards extinction. So really, we don't exist to them. I mean, we exist in terms of photo ops and stuff like that. But as far as a civilizational entity that matters, no, we don't exist. Imam mentioned that we don't exist at all. And if we even push to be counted with them, we don't have the wherewithal, we don't have the funds, we don't have the critical mass. Most Black American Muslims in the United States of America are individual islands unto themselves. They're not part of communities, they're not part of coalitions, they're individuals. And in terms of politics, when you talk about individuals, unless you're voting for a leader, you have nothing. It's impossible. It's impossible for the citizens of Pennsylvania all together to do anything unless they elect legislators who do their bidding or do what they think their constituency was, and the mayors and governors and city administrators and police chiefs. These are people who are elected and appointed as leadership. So in the Black American Muslim community, because people are totally detached from a leadership that works in their favor, you just have a lot of voices and there's no politics. And that's the way that they look at it. That's the way that the national political organizations look at it. That's the way I would look at it. If I was a political analyst and I was a consultant, I would say, hey, these Negroes don't matter. They can talk, but they're not going to do anything. They have no money. They have no leadership. They're not attached to anything. Their leaders have nothing. Their leaders can't even afford to fly to a conference. Can't even do that. They can't advertise. They can't promote campaigns. They can't do that. They cannot contribute to political races or issue campaigns. So that brings up another thing. So as far as Islamic politics, a start would be in all these conversations that we are having on this forum, every single conversation goes back to governance. It goes back to bay'ah. It goes back to congregation. Everything. If you don't have congregation as a Muslim people, you have nothing. There is nothing you can do except maybe an individual can effectuate this. You can go out and demonstrate in the street as a mob. You can speak as a mob. But if you do not have a point of entry for your community, a point of funding for your community, if you don't, it has to be like this. It has to be the community. It has to be a head. It can be a group of people as a head. It could be imam. It could be a council of imams. It could be a council of emirs. It could be administration. If you don't have that, not just in America, in any place on the planet Earth, you have nothing. So the general political view of Black American Muslims is that, hey, you know what? If you just leave them alone, because they don't have generational continuity, conversion is at zero. Meaning every 10 people that convert to Islam, and you can see that in the Pew Educational Trust study. You can go online and look at it. You look at Pew Islamic, like the Mosque Project 2016. You'll see all the data that they put together. Is that all accurate? Some of it is skewed because it produces a certain narrative, but you can see the data. The data that they have, I'm talking about the immigrant communities, the national political groups, which are very well funded, organized, and they are national in breadth, and in their reach. ICNA is national in its reach. CARE is national in its reach. They got CARE Central in Washington, D.C. You got, I don't know, like 30 different CARE satellites around the country. They're all involved in politics. Every last one of them is involved deeply in local, sometimes national, gubernatorial politics. So when you go to these meetings and you meet with Senator this and Senator that and so, that's what they're looking at. Okay, who has power? You see the African American Imam. It doesn't take much to figure out he has little constituency and has no power and no money. So he can't help me get elected. These guys give big money to political campaigns, like when they supported George Bush. George Bush, I think the second George Bush, the Muslim community supported him, but not the Black community. So we're not an entity. Now, the only way to come out of that is you have to start looking at ourselves as an independent, separate civilization of Muslims. You have to look at it that way, and you have to, it's going to take a generation, it's going to take a while, but you have to start organizing on that basis. You have to empower imams. It is absolutely insane not to have imams empowered who are advocates, capable advocates on your behalf. It's insane. That is an insane political Islamic policy. That's a no policy. So you got to look at that. And that's why you need political wings amongst Muslims. Right? The reason you have political wings is so that everybody, because you don't, the way we do it now, because we operate as a mob, every issue, we try to get everybody on the same issue. Like, let's all do, no, you don't do that. You get people that, hey, your job is the political part, okay? Every community should have a political person, especially if it's a sizable community. You have political people in your community. The imam can be political too, but let the imam do the imam stuff and the lead on the overall. You have political people, because what happens now is that imams, by necessity, we have to be involved in Islamic politics just so we don't get jerked around. And all we can do is throw jabs. But that takes first, the imam don't have the resources to be involved in politics. That's number one. And number two, politics is a different language. Okay, imam language is one thing. Imam advocacy language is something else. Imam political language is a totally different thing. So what happens is that lone imam in your community, wherever you are, in Philly, AC, New York, don't matter. Your lone imam has to be your political representative and imam, which puts them in a difficult situation, because politics, by its very nature, is dirty. It don't gotta be dirty all the time, but politics is some dirty stuff, and you can't get away with that. And during the time of the Prophet, they had politics, and it was dirty. It led to war. You had political liaisons, and it wasn't always pretty. It was political liaisons that went to Persia and said, "Listen, here's the situation. You're going to have to either accept Islam, or we're going to be at war." They had to do that. Ibn Abbas, as an adult, he was a political liaison between Ali's camp and between the Khawarij. He was the guy. Went to them, said, "Okay, what's our issue? What's the issue about Ali?" And so on. So I'm just saying, as far as it being Islamically valid, politics is it valid in Islam? Those are the kind of I'm not going to say stupid arguments, but it's like okay, you're gonna wash clothes. Is soap haram? It's that kind of argument. It's like some things we have to have people in our community.
Hey, we're gonna have to call someone for the stupid department. Right?
I mean, it's like, okay, politics haram. Like, what the hell is that? What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking? I mean, there's plenty of Islamic dalail for being involved in politics. I mean, just so much so that anybody who questions it, I will let someone else deal with that, because I was laughed trying to explain to you. Okay, so you have that. Then you have, like I said, it all goes back to governance and leadership. So the thing about it, yeah, we have to understand our politics and how to maneuver. Local politics, that's simple. That's just you as Joe Muslim going to the school. You don't like the way the school is run. You don't like what they're teaching. You deal with that. You don't like the drugs on the corner of your street. Then you look at that kind of stuff. You don't like liquor stores in your neighborhood. Too many liquor licenses. You got that. You have boards. You run for city council. You're not going to make the big change, because when you're involved in politics, you can't come into Reese. Go ahead. Okay, but listen, let me finish, man. They can't. They don't stop. Okay, so I'm going to finish. So the thing is, the thing about politics, and I have, way before I was an imam, I was a political analyst. Way before I ever thought of being an imam, I was working campaigns as a grunt soldier, as then the policy lightweight. Never was a big guy, just lightweight local city council campaigns in small towns, gubernatorial campaigns. I'm part of a big campaign. I'm just a little guy working on this district, voter persuasion stuff like that. But in politics, you don't bring everybody in and you don't put the cart before the horse. So we have to be involved in politics as imams right now because we're getting shafted, man. There's funding that has come to the United States for dawah that totally misses the Black American community. You have no idea. I mean, money coming from the Gulf, from individuals who went out, and the same groups to be smiling in your faces, man, they take these pictures, they can fly overseas, they can fly back and forth and say, look, here's what we're doing in America. We're meeting with this. We can't do that, mainly because we don't have the money to do it. We don't have the resources to do it. We don't have the staff to do it. You check online, look up Impact, MPAC, look up CARE, ICNA, look at MASS. Muslim American Society, which is a good organization, but they have 40 different satellite masajid around the country. They're dealing with tremendous amounts of money. So they have political people too. But their political people are paid, or if they're volunteered, they are financed. You have independent political players like Linda Sarsour, whatever, the Sarsour girl, and people like that, right? They have organizations. You can just go online, look them up. Look how much money their organization has. Look how much they get paid. I'm not knocking a Sarsour. I mean, I have my feelings about it, but it's not. I'm just saying they're doing their cause. And she's supported by the Anti-Arab Defamation League, and a lot of other Arab organizations that support her work on behalf of Arabs, on behalf of immigrants, on behalf of women. So she can show up at this rally, show up on that. Be on MSNBC, be on so-and-so, because you have staff, you got people. Imams can't do that. And we don't have any other position in the Muslim community besides Imam. So having a political wing, and I'm going to just say this, like you said about speaking the truth. If you listening, alhamdulillah, learning the deen, you know, if you want the deen, ma'am, Amin does very good deen classes every day. Deen, boom, 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 there's your deen. But as far as our civilization, our people, as Muslim, Black Muslim people, if you are not connected to an imam or to a community, and you are empowering your leaders, man, you're doing us no good. You're just a person talking who's not going to do nothing. That's nothing. That's even in the realm of politics, even the little campaigns that we work on for history campaigns or a Masjid opening campaign. That was a campaign. You know, we were doing a campaign to try to open the Masjid, you know, with the safety, but just not closing it. I started the campaign, and I think maybe other people did. If you anything in America, if you want to campaign, if I want to say, you know what, I want to save the horses, I want to save wild Mustangs in California. Well, you know, there's a campaign for that. And what Americans do is they say, you know what, I want to save the wild Mustangs in Nevada too. But I can't, I'm not up there, you're there, so I'm going to send you my check for $30 to support your campaign to do that. We're the only ones, and this is where I'm stuck. Because we within the Sunni community specifically, our thing is argumentation, our thing is refutation, our thing is cynicism, but it's hard to get us to support any campaign, anybody doing any campaign. And when you say the word politics, you need clout, you need support, you need staff sometimes, you have issues. Issues are fluid. So we come to the table with nothing, and politicians, I'm telling you, I've been in many of those meetings you were at, Imam. I mean, I've been there, man. Sometimes I'm not there as a Muslim representative. I'm there as just working for the company I'm working for. I'm working for the candidate. You know, I'm working for the guy. I just happen to be the guy that sent there. I work with different organizations on political stuff. That's how, you know, and I wasn't doing it as a Muslim, mashallah, but I was doing it for the campaign, for lowering light bills, for anti-abortion, that kind of stuff, because those are Islamic issues too to some degree. But if a politician knows that You ain't got no money, and you ain't commanding no votes. Why you not commanding the votes? Because your community is only 30 people. There's only 30 people in your Jama'at. There's only 100 people in your Jama'at. So sometimes it's just, okay, I want to talk to you because you're black and I feel sorry for you. For why they don't understand us. People are less and less. They don't understand Black American Muslims, but they know that we are downtrodden people. They know that we are a heavily manipulated people. And a lot of times when it comes to politicians, it's more like a pity thing. It's not like because they try to deal with us, but they can't. Because then you had the people, no, stuck for law. I'm gonna tell you what happened. Once we went to a meeting. I'm not gonna tell you. I don't know because it's people. I've been in stuff where Muslims were so bent on, we feast a bit of that. Where the political players involved, like, listen, okay, feast a bit of that, but we know you need X amount of dollars to work on someone, so we gave this to the Christian coalition. We want to give this to the Muslim coalition. We got $1 million on the table. All you got to do is say you want it and give us an idea, because we did it for the Christians, because we got that money. It's faith-based initiative. And you did have people saying, well, you know what, we do stuff we should be left. We don't need your help from the system. That kind of stuff. Stupid. Because we don't have anything to replace that. So I'm glad we talk about politics, but most of what we're talking about is it's good we're putting it on the table. Right, and I heard what you said, Imam. I mean, that's very good. I've been talking about this stuff for a few years now. Because basically we are Black Muslims in America are on a serious decline towards extinction. There's no way to get around that. There's no way you can get around that, and we can talk about it. But unless you have some sort of governance, unless you empower your leaders, unless you start talking critical mass, you cannot stop that. There's nothing you can do as a mob. Simply nothing. I don't know how many people watching today, but if you watch it, you have no imam, no community, no nothing that you are aligned with. I'm talking not aligned. Hey, he my imam, my man. No, that's not imam. No, that's that stuff. That means that he's on the stage. I like that, Imam. Yay! Oh, I like that, Imam. Yay! Come on. That's where they got it. So there has to be a certain amount of civilizational maturity. Seriously. And people don't like we talk like this, but I'm telling you, we've had these conversations, not this conversation. We're closer, I think, as a people than we've been ever before to realizing how to be free from certain things, from other Muslims. But politics, you got to look at the components I'm talking about. You have to look at the local politics, that's easy. You have to look at Islamic politics, organizational politics, which we don't have a handle on. But because we are indigenous Muslims, because we are Black, that makes a difference, because the general Muslim community is very, very sensitive about being seen in any shape or form as racist. They do not want the people to start looking at immigrant Muslims talking about their racist. That's their Achilles heel. Many of them aren't racist. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Many of them abhor racism. Alhamdulillah. Many of them want Black American Muslim communities to thrive. That's where they come in support. But the bulk either don't care about Black American Muslims, don't know about Black American Muslims, or realize, hey, there's an opportunity now that Black American Muslims will become like 3-4% of the Muslim demographic. Their children aren't staying Muslim. They're not building institutions. They got little storefront masjids here and there. They're not building education. They don't have their own schools. People not coming to the masjids. Some of these little masjids, immigrants are taking them over, or they're just closing down because they can't afford them. I think at least half of the Salafi masjids that broke off from other communities. I'm not trying to get on the Salafis, but they split masjid, opened up a masjid, and then your masjid just closed. There's one right here in Toledo. Salafi, so-and-so. It's an abandoned building. It's an abandoned building. They would have been better staying with the other community. That split up stuff and all that stuff comes from abroad, can't teach here, can't be here, he's not in the house. Let's start our own little masjid with 4 or 5 people. That don't last because it costs money to run a masjid. It costs money.
Imam, let's give it to Imam Naeem and Faheem real quick.
We come right
out there. No, we needed that. We needed that. I want to come back on some of your points, right? Really, really, because sometimes because we can't enact all the things we talk about, they don't mean that what we're talking about is not extremely significant in what we need to do. So some stuff, we got to put a pin in it. But it's very you highlighted some important points that related that I want to come back to. But I want to see what
Imam, because I had it written there, so I really want to put
it. Come back to some of those points I want to ask you about. Imam Faheem, did you have more to add on from what Imam Naeem or myself, or something you want to expound upon?
Not really.
Okay. Imam Naeem? Not really.
أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم.
All right, well, Imam, Luqman, man, you gotta go in there because I got a lot of things to build on. And I want to, related to that, I want to ask the listening audience, because every week we reaching a lot of people, and I want to thank y'all because I'm really elated at the fact that week after week you have maintained attendance. You've been regular. You've been supportive with your presence. You've been there. You've been engaging. You've been sharing. My question, and that's to everybody that's listening, so chime in. What is the reason that you believe we don't support financially our own initiatives that are organized on our behalf? What is that reason? I'm going to put that out there. You put your comments and we'll come to them. But that's the question, because you physically attend and we see that. But we'll rally around something. But when it comes to the financial support to sustain that movement, why do we fall short there? That's a question, and we'll come back to that. All right. Imam Luqman.
Yes.
Do you believe that a lot of the problems while our leadership is not effective is because our leadership was undermined by certain ideas that prevent us from working together?
Absolutely. In fact, I talk about that in my book about the Salafis. The devil's deception of the modern day Salafi sect. Wait a minute, Idris. Because listen, we have this is America. Just like we watch people who come over the borders, and check them for this and that and the history and the criminal background. We have to check ideology that's important to us. I'm a very strong proponent of any ideology, any campaign that is injected into the Muslim community, that is injected into our national dialogue. It has to have origin. We have to identify it. Just like the isnad of a hadith. It has to have a silsila. It has to go back. It can't be munqati'. It has to be, it has to be muttasil to munta'ahu. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same concept. For example, recently we started to see a push towards fighting against white supremacy. Now, 3 or 4 years ago, we weren't talking about white supremacy, right? So you saw immigrant political leaders picking fights with white supremacists. I'm not saying white supremacy does not exist, although as Black Americans, we pretty much support white supremacy with our money. When it comes down to dollars, we support it. We support the stuff that perpetuates it. We ain't got no problem with that. We just talk, I'm against white supremacy, but we support white supremacy with our money, and we don't have to. With our discretionary income. We use our discretionary dollars to support white supremacy. You could take the dollars that we spend on Netflix alone as Black American Muslims, and we could probably build 30 masajid across the country that cost $1 million each, just on Netflix money. Netflix money. That's all. So yeah. Of course, there is a steady undermining. It's because we love Islam so much. We love Islam so much. Everybody knows it. We're so naive. Everybody knows it. For a average Black American Muslim, all you got to do is tap him on the shoulder and say, brother, mashallah, your recitation of Fatiha is really, really good. Mashallah, I'm impressed. You're really a Muslim. And give him some incense and some oils, and maybe give him a book, and don't give him like a case of Qurans and stuff like that. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do for us. Send us some Qurans, we happy. Oh, we got some Qurans and some dates from Saudi Arabia. MashaAllah. For other communities, that's not enough for them. They be talking about dollars, man. We need $10 million over here. We need $20 million over here. We need money. But so listen, if I can figure that out, and I love Muslims, what do you think that ain't nobody who can figure it out? Listen, you want to appease these blacks? Here, take over the bookstores. Take over the bookstores. So you go into the bookstores, everything is selfie. They take the Tabitha Heed, which is a simple little booklet, and man, they by the time they put the gold lettering on that boy and the raised lettering on the stuff, it's like the Tabitha Heed. Like, boom. So it's a lot of stuff. So people know that Black American Muslims are very, 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 very malleable. And the imams, now you have more imams who have traditional learning, so they're less easily manipulated. And then once they understand politics, it's really, it's not, they're less easily manipulated, but also the people are already programmed. I mean, the program is coming out, but look at the programming. The programming is that if you talk, listen, I started having a Black Muslims conference again, right? I'll be online. So first thing I saw coming up on inbox is one of the organizers, a good brother, good people, but he's explaining to people why why they shouldn't condemn them for having something Black, right? So we're still at the level. We're at the level. No, brother. This is, man, Islamically, we got to be past that level. We got to be at a level where, we have to have political people and people in our leadership structure who, if somebody wants a question about why we doing Black stuff, we ain't got to explain that. We can explain 1,000 times. We ain't got to explain it, man. We got to stop explaining stuff, man. There's a limit, we should have every community should have one explainer. Okay, you know what? Hey, explain it to you, especially something stupid. He's the stupid explainer person. The guy that goes out and explains to people the stupid stuff that they can't get. So that way, the rest of us can keep on working. So we can't have, every time somebody throw a monkey wrench into a dialogue, we all get, we got to address this again. Man, you have to get past that, like everybody else. I'm telling you right now, if you wrote Impact, I'm not knocking these organizations. They're doing what they got to do. I'm not knocking CARE. CARE is an organization that has an agenda, and they do what they got to do. So if you write CARE, maybe if I write them or something, they might, because they respond. They know, I know them. And the guys out working, know it. They're working CARE. I love the individuals, but they, they listen to some people. But if you said CARE, you shouldn't do that. They're like, who the hell's you? CARE, you're doing this thing because you're taking this photo out because somebody died over here and you're using that to promote your organization. That's wrong. They look at you like, dude, I don't even know what the hell are you talking about. They keep on moving. We allow anybody, right now, we're at a stage, and hopefully we're going to get past this. Black American Muslims are at a stage where anybody on the planet Earth can weigh directly in on a situation and is giving credence. It could be somebody, some stupid idiot. Listen, I'm not backbiting because I don't know who they are. Somebody on Facebook could be somebody, no real name, no real face, no nothing, and say, well, I think that this is haram, blah, 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 blah. And people will actually give him credence. So anytime anybody can come into your conversational mix and give it platform with no qualification, I don't know who you are. Be quiet. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you come from. You be South Africa, Indonesia somewhere, Jordan somewhere, 17-year-old teenager. Anybody can challenge our imams. Anyone from anywhere on the planet Earth can come and challenge our imams, and the rest of us will sit and look stupid and say, maybe you're right. Not even the point, dude. Guess what? That's an imam here. You don't get to challenge imam over here. Because if you write in Egypt and you start saying, well, take so and so or so and so master, huh?
I said you're speaking the truth. I'm laughing, but I'm laughing because I'm realizing it's true.
No, it's the truth. So listen, if we know that about ourselves and we love ourselves, imagine people who may not like black people. Realize that, because you can't say, I'm going to challenge this Egyptian man, this Egyptian imam. He lived in so and so project in Cairo. You know what I mean? Like, man, who is he? They will look like, dude, you challenging? Who the hell is you? We can't run. We don't run nothing nowhere. We can't go to no country and say, listen, I just got here a couple years ago, and I think that I need to teach y'all Islam because y'all don't know nothing. And I'm going to teach you. I'm going to check your Aqidah. I just got to your country. I'm going to check your Aqidah. I'm going to check in your holidays. Y'all celebrating the soccer day or national day or Saddam, whatever day. I'm going to challenge that. I just got here. We allow that.
Imam,
we're still colonized. Wait, I'm going to say one thing. We're still colonized. Read my book, Double-Edged Slavery. We're colonized. So we got to come out of colonization.
Yeah, this is one thing I see. I saw a couple answers to the questions. So I want y'all to address them. But I want to just take a stab and y'all can bounce off what I thought about. Is that Mungard said the reason why they don't support is a lack of trust. That was a lot of the answers. A lack of transparency. Right?
Let me answer that real quickly, man. Really answer it real quick. Okay? Because that is legitimate to a certain degree. But you don't trust the imams. Well, how the hell you trust the politicians? You trust everybody else because they sure getting your money. We pay taxes to the federal government. So you trust them? We go into Walmart and buy stuff that may not be the quality we get. You trust them? You trust Netflix? You trust Hulu? You trust your bank? Charge you interest, charge you for bounce checks, making 2-3 checks bounce at a time, charge you $35. You trust them. So you trust, right? And then for a lot of people talk about trust, they haven't experienced. Trust what? That's also part of the programming.
Hey, can I share with you, right? I had this discussion too, right? And I had it with my own community because that was a line that used to be given, right? And so what we did is we built from where our previous administration was, because they said we couldn't trust, we didn't know what they was doing with the money. We over and over and over and over built and built and built and built so many things. And still you find, after multiple examples of transparency, multiple examples that you can trust, building, growing, still you find in our people, once even that's removed, you still don't support like you should, right? And I'm speaking just on behalf of a community that I know. I've been an imam for 10 years, right? In that community. And I got mad support, and y'all know that. My community supports me, stick behind me through thick and thin. I am the imam, and they follow, and they listen. But I know we could do much more if we solve that problem. And it ain't got nothing to do with transparency. It don't have nothing to do with a lack of trust. None of that, right? It is something in us beyond that, and it's termed sacrificing, right? I think it's about sacrificing and believing in ourselves. I think that's greater than I don't trust the imam, the roof project, all that. And I used to think about that but I looked at a lot of the times when you see masjids and you find money problems, it's because of the lack of support. And that leadership, the imam or the administration, they're robbing Peter and pay Paul just to keep the doors open because they can't count on you, right? And
Imam, I think it's brutal. I think it's listen. I think we need to look at
it as I'm stealing, and I'm not saying in every case, because I think the majority of Muslims, you can't tell me everywhere in the black community, every masjid around the whole country, all the imams are crooks. All of the board or administrators are crooks. Then that's really saying something about us as a people. I believe that the lack of support puts them in positions where they gotta juggle. And when you juggle without resources, you make a lot of mistakes because you don't have the money. And I know from our side, I can speak personal, and I like to speak personal. Why? Because it's something I live and I see it. If I had to rely solely on just donations for my community, we would have been something a long time ago, right? And you may ask, how does Imam Amin be able to run his community like I do? Because I pay, I donate, I spend my money, I sacrifice my family. That's what we got to do because of the lack of support, right? If I was depending on them, they would find a way. I'm not saying everybody, they're good people, but I'm talking about the problem we got among our people. They would find a way to tear it down. If you didn't have, if you wasn't able to bring in resources that says, listen, you can't tear this down. No matter what you do, you're not going to tear this down. We're going to get the job done. But that takes a lot of sacrifice, right? And it's a shame that we put our leadership in that type of position, us against them, when we're all trying to build the same thing, right? When the imam and the administrators, and I ain't talking about just the imam, to keep a masjid open and keep it running, that's a lot of work. That stuff is mentally stressful, financially stressful, physically stressful. So I'm saying, I think we need to check like what we say about our people. Like, all our people are not crooks. But if we facilitate it for them, maybe they won't be thinking about how they got to juggle this or do that because they got adequate support to plan and to do all those things. I mean, what about that idea? Imam Naeem, I wanted your thoughts on that.
SubhanAllah, I agree. Like, even from, our personal, my personal perspective, like in my community is much smaller than yours. But if there wasn't for social media and crowdfunding, we would just be, collecting money to pay bills. Don't let somebody have an emergency and need something from the masjid. And it's funny, I've even said this in front of the community, standing in the masjid. And like everybody's sitting happy, hey, we raised money to fix the roof. Yeah, but it didn't come from you. It came from people that don't even come here. you know, and so, you know, that's the reality. Is sometimes, you know, I'm sure as imams, when you talking to people, you looking at them to read their faces. Sometimes you get like this deer in the headlight look. Like, I'm like, yo, what I said, it didn't have no impact on you. You're not ashamed of the fact that somebody is giving more money to this community that may never ever pray in here than you. And like you said, it goes a lot to speak to like the mindset of our people. I believe though that in order to get out of that, and I'm looking at the comments as well, a lot of times I don't believe it has to do with trust. I believe it has to be like a lot of people are just not committed to anything. They check in and check out. Like you have, for example, there's been a couple of occasions where a person will come to our masjid and say, hey, what happened to that money we raised to build a new masjid, right? Now, if you don't know the history of the masjid, you'll be like, oh, there was money raised? What happened to it? Yeah, what's going on around here, right? That money was raised 2 imams ago, right? And people stopped giving. And the that money had to be used to maintain the building that we do have. And then we done raised and spent that money 3 or 4 times over already since then. But the person that comes in and says that, they haven't been around in half a decade or what have you. And so you have a lot of this going on all over the Muslim community. A lot of people talking about, yeah, I've been burned, I've given in this community. A lot of times if you ask for specifics, it's usually secondhand story. Sometimes it was happened with imams that was, not even imams anymore, or it was a story you heard from someone else or what have you. And the people that's actually saying it now, they just relating what they heard from someone else. And I've heard those stories as well. In our community, what we've done, if you really watching the masjid's pockets, the question should be, where does this money come that they getting all this stuff for? I know they ain't had that much money. How do they do that? That's what the question should be. And so, long story short, it always goes back to what we've all have been saying every single week. And somebody said it on here. I think it was Akil. He said that we have to work with what we have. And a lot of times we try to do things that we're not built for instead of building up to those things. And so if we only have X amount of people and we only have X amount of commitment, then we should operate with what we have and not where we want to be and build up. That's what I have to say.
I want to share something with you, right? You made a strong point because that happens a lot. And maybe an advice I give to other imams in the Black imam community, because we all share the same problem. What I've learned to do, and from watching previous or other communities, because I travel and I meet a lot of imams. When you raise money, don't raise money for one specific project with our people. Don't do it. That's a mistake. Why do I say that? Because what we would do, we'll say, we need $50,000 to fix the roof, right? Say, for instance. But we'll raise 15 while the roof is still leaking. And we'll say, we raised the money. We needed 50. We raised 15. Meanwhile, while that roof is still leaking, the wall gets damaged, the floor gets damaged, the light bill was getting ready to run out, you ain't got money enough in Sadaqah. So what happens is now the administration is stuck. We're not going to reach our goal. We don't have the money, and we got all these problems, and we don't got all the money. What, we're going to let the money just sit there? That happens a lot, right? So you're trying to do something that's not doable. We're going to get this money, and you already know that most likely the community is not, for multiple reasons, are not going to raise your targeted goal, right? So what would be better is that we start teaching our people to generally raise for the establishment and maintenance of the masjid. And they have to develop some trust that you're standing there in a place, you worship, there's lights, there's gas, the building's not falling on your head. Somebody is maintaining it with that money. And that part, as you mentioned, I think we don't ask that, right? We don't say, you know, how can I help the masjid? What does the masjid need? We don't even mention that. You have to beg and literally plead to take care of something that you use every week, sometimes every day, every Eid. You use it, but you don't find the necessity of maintaining it. And that's with all of our organizations and our movements. We have to start realizing that there is a responsibility. You don't do your house like that, right? You realize that you take care of the priorities that you need in your house. Even if you got a savings, something happens, you take from that savings to take care of that issue that came up. That's an emergency. Same thing the administration got to do. And I noticed that because I was walking today with my wife. We're walking around the neighborhood. We just talking. And I think about tomorrow, right? All the time. What about the next group of leaders who come after me? When we die, we're not taking the masjid with us. We're not taking anything with us. We're going in the grave. It's going to be left to somebody else. And I think what I want to put that burden that we have today on the succeeding generations, right? Like, and all of us have watched imams, and all of us have become imams after imams. And I ask you, how much of what he was struggling with is different from you? And that's a question. And I would like all y'all to answer that. All y'all succeeded imams, maybe sometimes 2 imams before you. And you should have some little bit of information about the history of those previous administrations. What is so much different in what we're talking about in galvanizing our resources that was different from them and different from you? Or are you in a similar, or if not even similar, more difficult struggle?
One thing that I wanted to mention, for example, to answer your question is, for example, there's a few brothers in our community. They're very, plugged in, like on a local political scene. They're very active in politics. And sometimes these brothers, whenever we have a gathering at the masjid, they will come to the gathering and basically say, man, us Muslims are backwards. We need to get out of the masjid and, out into the community and involved in politics. And they will go on and talk about how they was in this meeting and that meeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the conversation is always circular, because at some point, someone like myself is like, well, alhamdulillah, I mean, you already doing the work. You're already in the circle. Why don't you be that person to represent us? Since, you have a natural desire, you have a natural hemma for this. Usually the response I get was like, well, I tried that before, the imams before, they used to make, they condemned me for being involved in politics. I'm like, okay, that was them. I'm the imam now. I'm asking you to represent us. Oh, well, I already represent. So there's always a reason, but I'm like, okay, well, I can't, you're already there. Why I have to learn the ropes? And, so the conversation is always circular, and, their justification for not doing something now is what some imam did 15 years ago. Right. And so, so to answer your question, in my community, actually, I think some things are better. There's some things some issues that I necessarily don't have that previous imams have. Like, for example, a lot of the previous imams had a lot of in-house opposition. like people that was dead set against him on the governing body. Like, you know, we don't like you. We want you out of here. I don't have that problem. So, you know, alhamdulillah, right? But also one of the things that have
Saddam
inherited.
Hussein didn't have that problem either.
Say again?
I said Saddam Hussein didn't have that problem either.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah, the people on our match list, you know, alhamdulillah, they're easy to work with, and, you know, they want to be here, alhamdulillah. And actually, I don't need to be here. I can leave and everything still be functioning, alhamdulillah. So, but, you know, some of the things that maybe some of the negative things that I've inherited has been people that was there before I came, and, you know, they're doing the same thing. So nothing has changed, you know, alhamdulillah. So,
Imam Faheem, because it relates to this whole thing we're talking about. If we're going to get you're going to have the same thing. If you try to do a political movement, you're going to have the same issue you're having in the masjid, right? If it's a lack of trust in that, it's going to be a lack of trust in that, even more so. So how do you solve that problem that is existing?
Well, I know in my community, you know, I inherited a mess, you know, and just the previous imams there, well, it weren't really imams, there was just administration, and it was really one person in charge of it. But their whole thing was, as long as someone was there to do the khutbah, that was sufficient. You know, there was never really no rally about community organizing, anything like that. As long as they had somebody to do the Friday prayer, you know, because if things got too hot, you know, they would lock the masjid on you and stuff like that. And, you know, they wouldn't let you pray there as long as someone was there to do Jumu'ah. So, and then if they had somebody in the capacity of imam, he didn't have any power. So, alhamdulillah, I was able to come along at the time when all of that stuff kind of, you know, subsided, but I still inherited all of the mess, you know. But, you know, in my community now, I mean, I don't have that kind of opposition, but at the same time, I don't have that kind of support that I need to help, you know, propel me. You know what I'm saying? You know, I read some of the comments too. I just wanted to chime in. You know, I mean, when people talking about, you know, somebody says, "Oh, I gave thousands of dollars, and, you know, what happened to it?" You know, okay, like you said, Imam, I mean, a project, you know, is costing $20,000 when you inherit it, and then it's deteriorating even more. So somebody gave $2,000, and then the rest of the community is giving $5, $10, or $20. You know what I mean? That don't really do anything. And sometimes transparency will show how much support we're really not getting. You know what I mean? You know, people talking about transparency, you know, I mean, we're going to be counting the money. You look from the imam's perspective, we see how many people leave out of there and don't put nothing in that box. You know, after you done mentioned it in the khutbah, you done did an announcement afterwards. You done, you know, you send texts out, and you still see people like they don't feel like they have no commitment, you know, to do that, you know, but they got something to say about something not getting done, you know. But yeah, but alhamdulillah, at least for the last 10 years or so, we've been trying to gear towards community and be involved with a lot of things, even with some politics, you know. And somebody mentioned something to me the other day. You know, I do a lot of grassroots stuff, and you know, but one of the guys that's running for the city council is a NOI member, you know, and a lot of people in the city, they still see, because of our lack of being involved a lot, you know, in this city, they still see like the Nation of Islam as Muslims, you know what I mean? And one particular guy, he's on the payroll, you know, in Camden. They got this big thing you read about George Norcross and Donald Norcross, you know, and everybody who's like puppets, you know, to these two politicians, and they basically got their pulse on the city, man, with, you know, controlling city council members and stuff. So that's one of the fights that we're having, you know, and this is why the political game is rigged. You know, if you're trying to enter into it with a pure heart, you're gonna be disappointed. It's a dirty game, but you gotta play it dirty. You know, like Imam Luqman was mentioning about APAC. You know, they lobby, and if they control you with money. They raise funds and they control politicians with money. And if the money don't do it, they use blackmail. That's the way you got to play politics, But and local, in local politics, maybe not as much. But when you have smear campaigns on these people, or you're responding to something where you demanding things from them, that means more than your vote. If you march it down on City Hall, because we had a plan one time. We was going to just try to get 100 brothers just unannounced, just to march down on City Hall, go stand out there, 100 dudes, 100 black men. That would have scared the hell out of them, but we'd have had their attention then, so. But so many things we got to do, but a lot of times it's not. And I want people to realize the leaderships that you have here. We not those people of the past. And sometimes I be feeling like it's almost like you gotta be a charlatan to get ahead, man. Like if I was stealing money, and taking your money and having all this lavish stuff, I'd probably get the support. When people talk about giving money, I know in my area it's never to talk about the Imam getting paid. Somebody get a little $20 a month like that, and we got a small community, but then it's never involving me and, my needs for my family. They still want me to work, and then they want a class every day that they don't come to. And you got to get a khutbah every week, and then you got to prepare for a janazah and prepare for a nikah. And, people calling you out the blue and they want to get married and think you're just supposed to, stop what you're doing, When they calling me, I'm looking in the one ass section. I'm trying to find some work. That's crazy. But it's a lot of stuff I can say. But I'm done.
Here's one reason why I mentioned these things, right? Because sometimes, when we're talking about, and I don't think we think about this enough. We are responsible for Islam in our time and what we pass to the next generation, right? We like to talk about what, people sometimes they say, well, Malcolm X. I said, I don't want to talk about Malcolm X unless we talk about how we going to become Malcolm X. I don't want to have a discussion about what we could have been, what we used to be, and now we're not doing it. I don't want to talk about my father if I'm not doing like him or better than he did in moving forward, right? And here's what I say. A lot of times, and Farouk, this one going to be a little punch in your stomach, but I got to give it to you. Much as people make fun of Dr. York, I have more respect for his effort and what he built around, no matter how he done it. I'm not talking about right, wrong, or indifferent, but I'm talking about his effort of showing us what we can do. When I look at us now, when I was in the Ansars, this was never a discussion. Never. It's not a discussion. How we're going to have money. Now I look at today, I don't go nowhere in the black community except that this is a discussion, right? So I know what sacrifice is. And I was telling my wife earlier today, I said, we used to have to make $100 a day, give the $100 a day, and then figure out how we're going to have some money in our pocket, right? Now, this is not someone talking. This is what we actually lived. But granted, all that went the wrong way. Bad practices. But I know what we can do. Now, if you don't got the same mentality, why the hell we can't do the same stuff? It ain't no crook. It ain't no charlatan. We're on the Sunnah. We're following Quran and Sunnah. We got all this stuff. When we was in misguidance in the nation, in More Science Temple, all those different groups, they were able to mobilize their finances and build with misguidance. Now that we got the truth, what's the daggone problem? Imam Luqman, that's a question.
I think Alhamdulillah, I think that the number one problem, and maybe we're getting through that, But the number one problem with Black American Muslims is foreign influence. We just have too many different foreign spheres of influence. And so you take a local demographic, say Philadelphia, for example, or any city. You got 10,000 Muslims, right, in this area, in Philadelphia. I'm just putting a number. But out of those 10,000 Muslims, there's 30 different foreign spheres. Be quiet. Foreign spheres of Islamic political, ideological influence. You can't, you just, and each ideological influence pulls you from the other brother. Whether you're Salafi, definitely, and the branches of that, whether you're certain types of Sufi, is branches of that. Whether you're Ikhwani, branches of that. Whether you Sheikh lover this, Sheikh lover that, were you into Turkey, were you into Egypt, were you into Tunisia, were you into Africa thing, you on the Africa tip. I'm not knocking you being associated and following, but I'm saying that each one of those entities requires that your mental focus becomes off of your people, especially if you got a sheikh. Your focus is on your sheikh. But your sheikh don't live in your neighborhood. Your sheikh you don't know where he lives. He comes through, right? And might sell some books, and he might get some offering and stuff like that. May wave his wand a little bit like that. I'm not putting anybody down, but I'm saying that these are civilizational. This is like you have to look at the civilizational calculus, just without Islam, just on a basic pure civilizational level. If you have multiple spheres of foreign religious influence, and Islam is the most precious thing to us, like other people look at African American Muslims like they were stupid. Because it's not that we're stupid. We love Islam so much. We love Islam so much. You can't even fight for yourself without somebody saying, "Oh, astaghfirullah, brother, the way you talk to that brother." I mean, we into that kind of stuff. And it's really juvenile. And over a period of time, it has affected our people. Generational continuity. We don't have that. We don't build stuff, right? We cater to people in our community who do not have bay'ah. That's like catering to citizens in America. Like, hold up, dude, you're not even a citizen of my country, nor do you pay taxes, nor do you have any. You're not a citizen here, sir. What you think about the president, it don't matter, because you're not a citizen. You don't vote. You don't pay taxes. You may pay taxes. In America, it's like, okay, you're not a citizen. You can still pay some taxes. But we don't care about people as Americans. Like, I mean, I'm talking about blacks. We love everybody. We don't care. We just love everybody. But generally, as a society, you can't come to America. You are not a citizen of this country. You're not invested. You may not be paying no taxes. We, as I'm not saying me, but as a government, as politicians, we couldn't care less about you except in our political interests. But as Muslims, you have too many people who, just like the guy, what happened to my $10 I gave last month? Like, what do you mean happened to? I mean, what do we're in the church. I'm not saying we should follow the churches, but in the church, in other masajid, many masajid, these $1 million masajid, these people, they're like this. And I know a masjid in Lodi, California. They're farmers, maybe from Pakistan, but they beautiful community. But they're all from the same villages and stuff. They have a board in the masjid. They got a big board of who paid their monthly dues. Who paid it? You paid. If you ain't paid for a month, it's right there. And they got, and a lot of these masajid, their policy is, if you're not giving money, we don't care what you say. You have no say. You have no say. Anything you say, we'll just call the cops on you because you are not invested in this community. But we have a situation, and maybe it's because of ignorance. It's just impossible for you to have so many Muslims that have no bay'ah, no membership. Nobody accepts that. If you want to get cable, Comcast say, listen, sir, in order for you to get cable, you have to pay it. You have to get a cable package, and you got to agree that you can do this for a year, 2 years if you want the special. And if you happen to cancel before 2 years, we're going to charge you $200 because we're not going to we're not going to acknowledge you as anything unless you pay us money. So you can watch the cable, so you can watch Hulu, so you can watch Netflix, so you can have an iPhone, so you can have your phone service. Because if you don't pay after that month, guess what? We shut you off. But we as Muslims, we don't understand. I'm not even really understand. I'm just saying that's why you have zakat. Abu Bakr, he fought the people over zakat for a reason. If y'all down under the Khalifa, you must go be paying some zakat, And so I think that over a period of time, and maybe there has been imams who I'm not going to accuse any imam of misusing money because I know as an imam myself for many years, man, you do rob Peter to pay Paul. I mean, eventually, I was compensated pretty good in the last thing in California, but you do for the first 6 years, man. I didn't get paid. I got paid like $700 a month, $700 a month, and I was full-time imam, getting up every day. Riding to the Masjid, leaving Fajr. Sometimes I stay, so I come home. I'm there, Maghrib, Isha, day in, day out, man. Khutbas, classes, marriages. I remember a time I didn't even charge for marriage. It was like, oh, mashallah, man, can I get married tomorrow? Yeah, all right, brother. I mean, it's gonna cost you to get for me married now. I tell you, I ain't gotta do it, but I'm just saying. So a lot of imams been through that, man. And so now. I think imams now we're a little bit more, we're less gullible. In the conversation we're having on this platform right here, imams couldn't really have these conversations years ago. But now it's kind of like it's harder. It's easy for us to have these conversations. I mean, I think because we're unified, so it's hard for anybody to attack any one of us. Because we kind of no. So I think that may be one of the solutions. That's why I'm glad you had the conversation with Imam Zayd last night, because the more we're unified as imams, it kind of insulates each and every one of us. Because I'm not going to let anybody talk about any one of y'all. I will jump on his behind. I mean, if it's an issue, I'm going to call you on the phone. Other than that, and other communities practice that principle too, And so I think we're growing out of it, but really we're just in an emergency situation. And for Black American Muslims, we've been duped, man. We've been hoodwinked, man. We've been hoodwinked through Islam. Our love for Islam and our own naivete, it has taken a toll, but it's taken a civilizational toll. Salafism has taken a toll, man. That's just taking a toll. It's taking a toll on us, man. I saw somebody floating around Facebook today, a statement by Sheikh Uthaymeen. Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. It was an old statement. He said that when you say Sadaqallahu Azim after reciting Quran, you say Sadaqallahu Azim, Allah spoke the truth. He said that's a bid'ah, and it's haram to say that. And so somebody put it out there. I mean, it couldn't be a recent statement because he's dead for quite some time now. So, but that one statement saying Sadaqallahu Azim is bid'ah, and I'm seeing is we make it go viral, man. And somebody texts me, and they may be watching. Said, "Is this true?" Now, whether or not the Prophet said Sadaqallahu Azim after recitation of the Quran, no, there's nothing thabit in the Sunnah that he said that. But now it's classified as a bid'ah, and all it means is Allah spoken the truth. All this is an affirmation. You read Quran and you affirm to yourself, surely Allah has spoken the truth. That's an affirmation. That's a testimony. That's a testimony that Allah has spoken the truth. But I'm just saying, it's so easy for a statement like that to circulate through the Muslim community, and then it becomes like, okay, bid'ah, haram, okay, I mean, all this stuff happens, and for people to be that malleable, that is so easy, it's so easy to break us up, man. It's just too extremely easy for anybody to say, you know what, that Imam, he used profanity, stuck for the law, and you got 1,000 liquor stores in your city, and there's nothing profane about that. There's nothing profane about that. You got Muslims selling liquor and lottery tickets and condoms, and they used to sell porn. Some places they selling meth, right? Right in many of these cities. I mean, in Pennsylvania, only the state can sell liquor, but in other places, man. So I'm just saying that our moral psychology is that.
We got 1 minute left. We're over, so we got to sum this up, man.
Well,
Time moves
that's all I
fast.
had to say. I'm just,
All right, so Imam Faheem, do you have any closing statements? 2 minutes, so we can close this out, inshallah.
Yeah, just listen, forget all that stuff, support black imams. Support us. We can build while we coming up with plans. We got to sift through so much red tape and what we're going to agree on, what we're not going to agree on. Everybody has their own views. In the meantime, we can be putting together a nice little nest egg, you know what I mean? And trust us, trust us. I think for all of us, we're in the trenches in our communities, I mean, people always say, my imam, that's my imam, that's my imam. Okay, well, treat me like it, you know what I mean? If I make the call, give some money, give it up. You know what I mean? Yeah, just support, man, and forget all the other stuff and support people that that's tried and true. Money is the easiest way. It's the easiest way. All right, that's all I got, man.
Alhamdulillah, my closing words are, I agree with Imam Luqman, what he mentioned. I agree with Imam Faheem. I also agree with everything that you said. And I'll only add to that, we have to be consistent. Doing it big one time is not going to cut it. Doing a little bit all of the time will cut it, not just doing it big one time. So showing your support consistently to the best of your ability, spending money consistently to the best of your ability, that's what's going to get us through, not just checking in and checking out when we can. And as we say every week, you need to have an imam. That does not mean that imam is perfect, but you can't be out here running, ronin, a renegade, your own imam. Real Islam don't work like that. So you can't expect to get real Islamic results if you refuse to, put your hand in another man's hand and say, I support you. So those are my closing words. Alhamdulillah.
I support you. Hey, Imam Luqman.
I nominate you to be the mujaddid, because if we're going to get this money, people only follow these different groups, right? So we got to do a progression. First, you start off as a mujaddid, right? Then we rock with that for like a year. And then you be the Mahdi. Then maybe another year, right?
No, you know what, man. I've said. I'm grateful to Allah that we're having these discussions, because things don't happen overnight. I think we're raising consciousness, and I think that inshallah change is going to be effectuated. Allah says, "Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma bi qawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim." So we're trying a different approach, and I think the fact that we're having a dialogue and it's opening others to have the similar dialogue now, and I just think it's good. I mean, I'm just really concerned about people not being so naive. It's not because it ain't. People really need to study the Sunnah, study the history, man. Islam wasn't built by it wasn't built like people. It wasn't almost. It wasn't like that, man. They had to fight, struggle. They had to deal with money issues. They had to really. That was serious. But one thing about Islamic history, throughout history, if you were not invested, you were not counting. Simple as that. I mean, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, man. But if all you can do is sit on the sidelines and talk about this and that, and you can't be counted and depended on as a man, as a Muslim man, I just can't even. I can't understand it. I mean, I have a hard time understanding it as a Muslim man. As a Muslim man, you have to say, "Hey, this is my name. Here where I stand. You know, I don't like you. Okay, or I support you, or I'm just scared. Say you're afraid. Just say it. Okay, we can deal with that. But just to be like, it's just hard for me to understand. So, but alhamdulillah, you know, Allah is the best of planners. Alhamdulillah.
I just, in my closing statements, I got two things I want to answer. One of the sisters, I'm assuming that's a sister, she asked, does the Imam have to be from our own city? I think what we've all agreed upon is that, and it's a reality, you got to find someone you comfortable and join in. You don't have to be, most of the people who support my community are not from Atlantic City, right? Most of the people who study with me are not from Atlantic City. So, and that could be like, all of these imams have been to my community. None of them, they live far away from me except Imam Faheem, but they come regularly. They're in there. Their community indexes, we interact. We've been assisting and helping each other for years. This ain't a relationship that just happened over the internet. All of us have been in difficult situations when we were there for each other. We've seen, like, every one of us can tell I had a need and the other imam came through for me, right? We were trying to do a program and that imam brought his community, brought his people and supported. So we are way apart, but we're brothers in Islam and we're all trying to do the same thing. So I think the object of the imam being where you're from, you got to find someone who's like-minded and join in and support and build. And we're in a global society now, so you can work with where the person is at. That's one thing. The second thing I just got to address before I make my last comments is Farouk talking about Dwight York, right? I'm going to be honest with you. When I look at Dr. York, I look at Elijah Muhammad, I look at Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey, I see men. When I look at a lot of black Sunnis, I see a bunch of punks. Seriously, I'm going to be honest with you. I hate to say it, but I go hard if you know me. I see a bunch of faggots. Seriously. No men. Chumps. And that's what I see. Seriously. Man. If you know me, you won't be surprised me saying that. Like, I don't like it. I saw men before. I saw men who would sacrifice everything they got for their women and children, right? I'm going to tell you a story that's real. I was a teenager. We used to stand guard. We have to go out and pedal from 9 o'clock in the morning to a minimum 9 o'clock at night. And you have to have $100 when you come in. 9 o'clock. Don't come in that damn door if you don't got that $100. I'm just being real. This is how it was. When you got in at 9 o'clock, if you made your money, you still had to do 3 hours of guard on a building protecting the women and children. So you were out all night. And then when you come in, you either got 9 to 12 guard, 12 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9. You're going to work. Ain't no room for no punks. You're going to carry it, period. And you're going to bring your money. And if you don't bring your money, come Friday, somebody's going to see you. And guess what? The job got done. Now, everybody got a bunch of excuses. Nobody want to work. Our children are running amok, right? Their children memorizing the Quran, learning Arabic, doing what they got to do. Our children watching rap videos, talking about they on the Sunnah, watching WAP with that crazy girl, Cardi B, a mess. But we talking about they was on misguidance. You on the Sunnah and you a chump. I don't get it. That ain't the Islam I knew.
I can't get that either, man.
So my point is, when I say we're having this discussion, we would have never had a discussion like this in the Ansar community. Never. It wouldn't have been a discussion. Absolutely not. No discussion, period. But I go to every black community around the country, and it's the same damn discussion. But you on the hook. But you making fun of men. You're making fun of the men in the NOI. You're making fun of the men in this group and that group. But you a bunch of chumps talking about you on the hook. That ain't Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's religion. The Sahaba were soldiers. They would sacrifice. They would build. They would give everything for the mission. What kind of companion salaf you following? I'm just speaking real. I don't understand that. We're losing our children. We're on a bridge of on the brink of distinction. Being extinct, excuse me. I get so angry with this stuff, my blood boils. We're on the brink of extinction as a people. And all you can talk about is how you can be a punk. And I can't do it. And let the women run your community. That's a problem. And the women got to stand behind you and carry your punk butt. Because you ain't a man. But you talking about I'm on the sunnah. So, Farouk, that's my sentiment when I don't agree with misguidance at all. You know me. I'm not speaking to you directly, but I'm a Sunni, and I ain't a punk Sunni either. That's why you don't hear me compromising with Wahhabis. I don't go for none of that. And I'm saying we need men in our community. That's the problem with the black Muslim community. A bunch of sissies. But we'll beat our women up. We'll cuss them out. But we ain't going up to take care of the stuff that we need to do to be real men. That's my issue. So when I speak about that, because I seen men, I know what men do. I know how men sacrifice. And that's the Islam I know. I don't know another Islam. This new sissy Islam where men, they don't have no pride. They don't have no standard. They scared to fight. They're not willing to battle. None of that. I don't know that crap. That's not the Islam that I know. I know Islam that are soldiers, men that will give their life for what they believe in. That's the Islam I know. That's the Sunnah I know. That's the Salaf I know. That's what I'm talking about. But the rest of this just talking and sitting on a computer, and I see you in the masjid and you ain't doing crap. I see you just, your family ain't in the masjid. Man, I don't got no respect for that. You a chunk. That's how I look at you. Period. Like it or not. And I don't care how you feel about it. You know what I mean? But don't hurt his feelings. He's, nah. Tell that joker to man up. If you wonder why women don't want to marry you, you're a punk. That's why she don't want to marry you. You need to man the hell up. And we need to stop accepting that from our men. Because our women are soldiers. They on the front line. They ready. But it's our brothers. They lagging behind big time. And they got every Islamic excuse why they lag behind, which ain't a real Islamic excuse. Go study the lives of the Sahaba. Go study how they sacrificed their lives. Go study those people of the Salaf. This is what we need. That's what we need in our community. And that's what it used to be about. That's what Islam meant in the black community. Men. Okay? I don't know. So that's if we start being men, we don't got to have these discussions because men can come together and get something done if they're men. And I know that. You know how I know that? Because we used to be criminals. A lot of us were criminals before. And some of the stuff that I watch us do, we would have never done in the streets. Absolutely not. I talked to two brothers, right? That they're out. We were dudes that was in prison. And I'm watching brothers following following others. I said, when you was in the prison, answer me a question. You was in the prison. Was some foreigners leading the community? Absolutely not. Hell no. That wasn't happening. You wasn't doing it. And even if he was smarter than you, you was like, all right, you can give classes, but you ain't leading nothing. We got this. That's how they were, right? On the streets. You got guys that was drug dealers, kingpins. They're getting their stuff from Colombia, from the Dominican Republic. Is the Dominican coming up in the hood or that Colombian running some stuff? Hell no. No, absolutely not. He's your supplier, but he better not come up in that hood doing nothing. He ain't making it out of there. So your concept was being in control, maintaining your destiny. Then you come to Islam and surrender all of that. Explain. But that will never happen. But you got into Islam and you surrendered all of that. Gone. What happened? And in Islam tell us the best of you, khayrukum fil jahiliyyah, khayrukum fil Islam. The best of you in jahiliyyah, well, the best should be the best in Islam. So if you was the man, you was running stuff in the dunya, how you a punk in Islam? I don't get it. Umar was a soldier in dunya, a khalifa in Islam. Abu Bakr was a soldier in dunya, a soldier in Islam. Ali, Luqman, all of the Sahaba. Where do we get this concept? I was the man in the streets and I'm a chump in Islam. Soon as somebody tell me that, I look at your deen, I know what you was doing in the street. You was a chump in the streets too. I know it. I watch you. Because it ain't no way you was a soldier in the streets and you soft in the deen. It don't work. No way. It don't apply. Same thing. If you was a soldier in the prison, you was running it. When you would be in the street, you would be doing the same thing. You was a chump in here, you a chump out here. Same stuff. I mean, I don't know, excuse me, I know this ain't the Imam. I mean, you looking, let me go back to shake mode. But that stuff pisses me off. I ain't gonna lie. We need men bad. Like it should be an SOS, right? And an emergency sign for men. We need men and black men in this deen. And if we get a group of black men, you saw it in the Dar, you saw it in these other, when you saw movements of black men, you saw progress. What they turned us into, women with male organs. That's what they turned us into. And we have to regain that. Our manhood has to come back. The same when we used to do before we got this deen, we got to get that same way. And I'm just saying, and maybe sometimes we might need a good fight. You know, sometimes we used to say he needs to get punched in the mouth so he can learn to get some heart. You know?
That's very true.
That's why he's scared to fight. He needs to get knocked the hell out so he learn to fight. Hey, that might take. So we've been getting whooped, but all right, may Allah reward you. I'm sorry if I stepped on anyone's sensitivities, but you know, we at war. And if you scared to fight, go sit your punk butt down because we at war. Bottom line, we at war. And this is where we at. We need soldiers because if we're not soldiers, we're going to die. We're going to get wiped out as a people. Inshallah, Imam Luqman, close us out.
Jazakallah khair, man, for this forum. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم الأموات وألف بين قلوبنا واجعل في قلوبنا الإيمان والحكمة والشجاعة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ونصلي ونسلم ونبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ikhwan. Jazakallah khairan for another good show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.